All right, let's dive into something pretty fascinating today.
Okay.
Ellen G. White's vision for Christian education.
Sounds good.
We're going to be talking about her book, Christian Education,
Okay.
and really kind of unpacking how she saw faith and learning working together.
Right.
And I think it's way more than just like, memorizing Bible verses or something like that.
It's a much deeper dive.
Yeah, it's a whole philosophy of education.
It is a philosophy of education.
And I think what's so interesting is
Yeah.
she was writing this back in the late 19th century.
Yeah, that's right.
And she was already like critiquing
Mm-hmm.
the education systems of her time.
Oh, absolutely.
She was saying like simply stuffing students
Right.
with facts and figures,
Mm-hmm.
it just wasn't enough.
That wasn't enough.
She believed in developing the whole person.
Right. And, that's a concept that we still grapple with today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What does it mean to educate the whole person?
Right. So she wasn't just about, hitting the books.
Yeah.
She was about building character too.
Yeah, absolutely. She believed that true education, as she called it,
Oh.
had to address the mind, the character,
Right.
and the spiritual side of a person.
That's so interesting because even
Yeah.
today,
Right.
we're still grappling with that balance.
Mhm.
Like how much emphasis should be on, practical skills versus ethics
Right.
or career prep versus personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
It's like she was ahead of her time in a way.
Yeah, she really was.
Yeah.
And I think she was pushing for an education that prepared you for life as a whole,
Right.
not just for a job.
Yeah. And a key part of that for White
Yeah.
was understanding the Bible's role in education.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So how did she see the Bible fitting into the classroom?
Okay.
Was it just about adding a scripture reading to the school day?
No, not even close.
Okay.
She saw biblical principles as the foundation for every single subject.
Right.
So it wasn't about separating secular and religious learning.
Okay.
It was about seeing them as intertwined.
That's pretty different than what most of us have experienced, I think.
Absolutely.
So I'm picturing a very different classroom
Yes.
than what most of us experience.
Yeah.
But give me like a concrete example.
Okay.
How would that actually play out?
So one example she points to is the schools of the prophets in the Bible.
Okay.
These were ancient schools that combined practical skills
Mhm.
like agriculture
Okay.
or craftsmanship
Interesting.
with spiritual training and character development.
Wow. So it's a very
And-
holistic approach.
It was a holistic approach.
So it's like she's envisioning a world where, say, a future engineer
Yeah.
isn't just learning physics,
Yeah.
but also the ethics of responsible innovation.
Exactly.
Or a budding artist
Yeah.
is taught not just technique,
Mhm.
but also how to use their art
Right.
to inspire and uplift others. It really makes you rethink the possibilities.
It really does.
And for White,
yeah.
one of the most crucial elements of character development was understanding what she called the science of salvation.
Yes, the science of salvation.
Now that sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
Science and salvation
Right.
aren't words you usually hear together.
No.
What does she mean by that?
So she believed that understanding God's plan for humanity and our place within it
Okay.
was like having a master key
Okay.
to unlock the meaning of life.
So it's about understanding our purpose,
Yes.
our potential, and our relationship with the divine.
Exactly.
So it's like a spiritual framework for understanding ourselves and the world around us.
Yes, and White argued that this understanding should form the very core of education. It's
Okay.
about grounding everything we learn, from history to science to
Yes.
arts,
Yeah.
within a larger spiritual context.
It really challenges
Yeah.
the typical boundaries we've set up
Yeah.
between like secular knowledge and religious belief.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like she was advocating for a much more integrated approach.
A much more integrated approach, definitely.
And for White,
Yes.
this integration had to extend beyond the classroom.
Okay.
She believed that the home
Yes,
played a critical role in shaping a child's education.
absolutely.
So it's not just about what happens at school, it's
Right.
about what's happening at home too.
Yes, she called the home
Okay.
the first and most important school
Wow.
where parents are the primary educators.
That's a big statement.
It is.
It's where those foundational values, that love
Yeah.
for learning
Mhm.
and that understanding of faith
Right.
should first take root.
It all begins in the home.
It makes you think about the enormous responsibility parents have
It does.
and also the incredible opportunity
Yes, the opportunity is huge.
to shape young minds from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
And she didn't stop there.
No, she didn't.
White also saw a deep connection
Okay.
between physical well-being
Right.
and education.
Interesting.
Okay, this is where I'm really curious.
Yeah.
How did she link those two things together?
I'm happy to share that with you. Well, she believed that true education nurtures the whole person, mind, body, and spirit.
Okay,
She saw them as interconnected, not separate compartments.
so it's not enough to just focus on academics.
Yeah,
You need a healthy body to support a healthy mind.
precisely.
Okay.
She advocated for things like a balanced diet, regular exercise,
Right.
getting enough sleep.
Like she was a wellness influencer way back in the 1800s.
There's a thought.
Right.
But seriously, she saw this as more than just physical health.
Okay.
She believed that neglecting your body could also hinder your spiritual growth.
That's a fascinating connection. It's like she's saying that taking care of yourself physically is also a form of spiritual discipline.
Exactly.
Wow.
And she even went as far as to caution against certain habits,
Okay.
like overeating or relying on stimulants,
Oh, right.
which she believed could cloud the mind and
Yeah.
make it harder to connect with your spiritual side.
It makes you wonder if some of the challenges that students face today, things like anxiety or lack of focus, might be related to lifestyle choices.
Yeah.
Could a more holistic approach to well-being actually improve academic performance?
It's a question worth exploring.
Absolutely.
Now remember, White was writing in a very different time,
Right.
but many of her ideas resonate even today.
Yeah.
One that stands out is her emphasis on carefully choosing the right content for education.
Okay.
It wasn't just about how you teach, but what you teach.
So she was concerned about curriculum too.
Very much so.
What were some of her specific concerns there?
Well, she was particularly wary of what she called secular philosophies,
Oh, right.
ideas that she felt contradicted biblical teachings.
So what kind of content did she advocate for instead?
She was a huge proponent of using the Bible as the ultimate textbook.
Okay.
She believed that all subjects should be taught through the lens of biblical principles.
That's quite a different approach than what's typical in most schools today.
It is.
But I'm curious, did she reject all secular knowledge?
Not entirely, no.
Okay.
She actually emphasized the importance of studying nature and the world around us.
Okay.
However, she believed that nature should be seen as God's creation reflecting his design and purpose.
So it's not that she was against science, but she wanted science to be understood within a specific worldview.
Precisely.
Right.
Now, of course, that raises questions about how to balance different perspectives and interpretations,
Right.
especially in a society that values the separation of church and state.
It definitely highlights how deeply personal beliefs can influence our approach to education, both as individuals and as a society.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that brings us back to one of White's most intriguing and potentially controversial concepts,
Okay.
the science of salvation.
Yes, the science of salvation.
Okay, you mentioned this earlier, and I have to admit I'm still a bit baffled by it.
Okay.
How can science and salvation even go together?
Right.
They seem like completely different realms.
It does seem counterintuitive, right? But for White, the science of salvation was about understanding the spiritual laws that govern our existence,
Oh,
just as science explores the laws that govern the physical world.
okay.
It was about understanding God's plan for humanity and our individual journey toward redemption.
So it's about applying a systematic approach to understanding spiritual truths.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about studying the Bible, exploring the nature of sin and redemption,
Right.
and ultimately understanding our purpose and place in the grand scheme of things.
It sounds like a very different way of thinking about spirituality, almost like a spiritual roadmap or a curriculum for the soul.
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
And for White, this wasn't just some abstract theological concept.
Okay.
She believed that understanding the science of salvation was the key to unlocking our full potential as individuals and living a truly meaningful life.
It's a fascinating idea, even if you don't necessarily agree with her specific theological framework.
Right.
It makes you think about whether we could apply that concept of a spiritual curriculum to other belief systems or philosophies. Could there be a science of self-actualization or a science of finding your purpose regardless of your religious background?
It's definitely a thought-provoking concept.
Yeah.
Now, going back to the more practical aspects of education,
Okay.
White placed a lot of emphasis on the role of teachers.
Right. She believed teachers played a crucial role in shaping young minds.
Absolutely.
What were some of her key ideas about the kind of teachers she envisioned?
Well, for White, it wasn't just about subject matter expertise.
Okay.
She believed teachers should embody the very values they were trying to instill in their students.
So it's not just about what you teach, but also who you are as a person.
Exactly.
Okay.
She talked about teachers needing to be living examples of Christian virtues like patience, kindness, and integrity.
Right.
She believes students learned as much from observing their teachers' behavior as they did from the lessons themselves.
It's that whole actions speak louder than words idea applying to education.
Precisely.
And she went even further, emphasizing the importance of teachers having a strong personal faith.
Okay.
She believed their faith should be evident in every aspect of their teaching and interaction with students.
So it's not just about teaching the Bible as a subject, it's about living out your faith in the classroom.
Right. It really raises the bar for what it means to be a teacher, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
And this leads to some interesting questions for us today.
Okay.
What qualities do we prioritize in teachers?
Mm-hmm.
Do we value character and values as much as academic credentials?
Right.
And how do we create learning environments that support both intellectual and spiritual growth?
These are big questions, and it seems like White was grappling with them over a century ago.
She was, and
Yeah.
her ideas are still relevant for us today.
Absolutely.
But there's one final piece of her philosophy that I think ties everything together.
Okay.
Her emphasis on the home as the foundation for education.
Right, we touched on this earlier. She believed parents were the primary educators,
Yes.
even before formal schooling begins.
Why was this so important to her?
Yeah, why was that so important to her?
She saw the home as the ideal environment for nurturing a child's love, for learning, for instilling moral values, and for fostering a strong connection to God.
So it's not just about academics, it's about creating a culture of learning within the home.
Yes, exactly.
But how did she envision that actually playing out? What did she suggest parents should do?
Well, she advocated for parents to be very intentional about creating a stimulating home environment.
Okay.
She encouraged them to read aloud to their children,
Mm.
to engage in meaningful conversations, and
Okay.
to expose them to nature and the arts.
So it's about making learning a natural part of everyday life rather than something that's confined to a classroom.
Exactly.
And she also stressed the importance of parents modeling those values and behaviors they wanted their children to emulate.
Right. It's that idea of leading by example again.
Right. But it makes you wonder how parents can do all of this in today's busy world
Yeah.
between work and errands and extracurricular activities. How do we create that kind of enriching home environment?
It's a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
But I think what's most important is remembering that even small, everyday moments can be opportunities for learning and connection.
It's like reading a bedtime story together.
Exactly.
Or having a family meal where you talk about your day.
Exactly. It's about being present, being engaged, and showing your children that learning is a lifelong adventure, not just something you do in school.
This has been such a thought-provoking look into Ellen G. White's vision for Christian education.
Yeah, it has.
While some of her ideas might seem unconventional or even controversial,
Right.
it's clear that she was deeply passionate about creating an education system that nurtured the whole person.
Absolutely.
And even if you don't agree with everything she said, I think there are valuable takeaways for us today.
Definitely.
Her emphasis on character development, the integration of faith and learning, and the importance of a holistic approach to education are all ideas worth considering as we strive to create a better future for ourselves and for generations to come.
Couldn't agree more. It's about sparking that curiosity, that desire to learn and grow,
Right.
not just for a job, but for a life well lived.
Well said. Now, we've only just scratched the surface of Ellen G. White's ideas.
Right.
If you're interested in diving deeper into her vision for Christian education, we encourage you to check out her book.
Yeah.
You'll find a link to Christian education in the comments section.
It's a fascinating read, even if you don't share her specific religious beliefs.
All right, that's it for this deep dive. We hope you found it as thought-provoking as we did.
We did.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning. So we've been unpacking Ellen G. White's ideas about education. And one thing that really stands out is her emphasis on choosing the right content.
Yeah, she really believed in being intentional about what students were exposed to.
Right, like it wasn't just about adding some Bible verses here and there.
Yeah, not at all. It was
Yeah.
much deeper than that.
It was about a whole worldview.
Exactly. She believed in seeing all knowledge through the lens of faith.
So for her, the Bible was like the foundation
It was the guiding principle for everything.
for every subject.
Yeah, she really believed that.
But she didn't advocate for like a purely religious education, right?
Right. She wasn't saying just shut yourself off from the world and only read the Bible.
she still valued knowledge about the natural world.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
She saw nature as God's creation, a testament to his power and wisdom. So
Right.
studying nature wasn't just about learning scientific facts.
Right.
It was about appreciating God's handiwork.
It's like she saw science and faith as being able to work together,
Exactly. They could complement each other.
not be at odds.
Right.
And that kind of makes me think about
Yeah.
how we approach knowledge today.
Mm-hmm.
Can we find those points of connection
Right.
between different areas of knowledge,
Great question.
even if our worldview might be different?
Yeah, can we see the interconnectedness of things, even if we don't share all of White's beliefs?
It's a good reminder that there are multiple ways of looking at the world,
Absolutely.
and that exploring those different perspectives
Yeah,
can actually help us
it can enrich our understanding.
understand things better.
Definitely.
Now, one thing that we've talked about
Okay.
that I still find really fascinating
Yeah.
is this idea of the science of salvation,
Right, the science of salvation.
where we unpack that a bit more.
Sure.
What did she actually mean by that?
So it can sound a little confusing at first. She
No.
wasn't talking about science in the way we usually think about it today, with labs and experiments.
Not like the scientific method.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was more about a systematic approach to understanding spiritual truths.
So a different kind of science.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
It was about studying the Bible, of course,
Right.
but also about reflecting on our own experiences,
Hmm.
observing the world around us, and trying to understand our relationship with God.
So it's like having a spiritual framework for navigating life.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like having a set of principles
Right, a moral compass
to guide our decisions.
to help us make choices.
It makes me wonder
Yeah.
if we could apply that concept to other belief systems
Mm-hmm.
or even to secular philosophies.
Okay.
Could there be like a science of self-discovery
Interesting.
or a science of ethics?
I like that.
Something that helps us live
Yeah,
more fulfilling and meaningful lives.
right. Regardless of our religious background.
Exactly.
That's a really interesting thought. I think
Yeah.
that's worth exploring.
Now, White didn't just focus on like the individual spiritual journey.
Right. She looked at the bigger picture, too.
She also had a lot to say about the role of community,
Yes, community was very important to her.
especially the role of the church in education.
The church was central to her vision.
So for her, the church was more than just a place of worship.
Oh, definitely. It was a center for learning, for service, for community building.
It was like an extension of the home and the school.
Yeah, providing another layer of support and guidance.
And she saw churches offering educational programs for all ages.
Yes, not just Sunday school for kids.
Right.
She envisioned programs for adults.
For everyone.
For everyone.
It's interesting how she emphasized that community aspect of learning.
Yeah, it wasn't just about individual growth.
Right. It's about growing together.
Yes, learning from each other, supporting each other.
Which brings us back to this idea that education isn't just about academics.
Right.
It's about shaping character,
Mm.
building relationships,
Yeah.
finding our place in the world.
It's about becoming well-rounded individuals who can contribute to something larger than ourselves.
Exactly.
And White believed that this kind of holistic education
Mhm.
was essential for creating a just and compassionate society.
It's been so interesting
It has.
exploring Ellen G. White's ideas.
Yeah, she was a fascinating thinker.
And even though some of her views might seem a little old-fashioned today,
Right. Times have changed.
her passion for education,
Yeah.
her emphasis on character development,
Mm-hmm.
and her belief in the power of faith
Yes.
are really inspiring.
I think so, too.
And even if you don't agree with everything she said,
Right.
I think her work challenges us to think deeply about the purpose of education
It does.
and to think about how we create learning environments that really nurture the whole person.
The whole person, mind, body, and spirit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that education is a lifelong journey,
It is.
and it's up to each of us to figure out what we want to learn,
Right. What we're passionate about.
how we want to grow,
Yeah.
and how we can use what we know
Mm.
to make a positive difference in the world.
Well said.
And remember,
Yes.
if you're curious to explore Ellen G. White's ideas further,
Mm-hmm.
you can find a link to her book, Christian Education, in the comments section.
It's a fascinating read,
It is.
even if you don't agree with all of her ideas.
Well, that's it for this deep dive into Ellen G. White's vision for Christian education.
It's been a pleasure.
It has. We hope you found it thought-provoking.
We did.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep learning.